Let's go back in time for a bit. The year is 2006.
I'm 14 years old and totally in love with my PS2. Kinda oblivious to what other consoles had to offer, I lived a happy, slightly sedated life as a PlayStation fanboy. A simple moment in time that wasn't meant to last. Because there, on the horizon, was one of my best friends. Also a gamer, but of a different kind. Because my friend was a huge Xbox fan. The original Green Giant. There was always a friendly sense of competition between the two of us. Especially when it came to our consoles. Because we were 14 and those kind of things really matter when you're 14 and living in 2006. My friend told me that he just finished Doom 3 on the Xbox and that it was the best looking game since anything ever. I scoffed at these words. One measly game wasn't going to burst my Sony superiority complex. I was more or less aware that the Xbox was a bit more powerful than my trusty DualShock friend, but the difference couldn't be that staggering, right? Wrong. Break time was here. So my friend fired up the Pentium 0 something PC in our classroom to show me some of those tasty, crispy screenshots. Still in full disbelief, I opened the GameSpot page. And after waiting a full minute for the PC to load in one image, I was dumbfounded by a pure display of technological prowess. This was way beyond anything my PS2 was playing or going to play for that matter. The dynamic lighting, the dynamic shadows, the bump mapping, it was all unlike anything I've ever seen in a video game. I tried to keep a straight face while I was trying to deny the undeniable in a yeah, that looks alright if that's your sort of thing kind of way. Lies, filthy lies. My own trusty PS2 was outclassed and God knows I knew it. I left school with a sense of dread and defeat that day. Awestruck by the possibilities of a more powerful machine and doubting all the choices that made me buy a PlayStation 2 in the first place.
Luckily the feeling sorta left when I popped in Up Your Arsenal that evening, but man, I was impressed.
And no, my PC couldn't run Doom 3, so there was no alternative. I, just as many, kinda sorta forgot about Doom 3. It was kind of a polarizing game at the time, and as the initial awe wore off, people started poking holes in it. It wasn't like Doom 1 and 2 and never really became a staple in the series.
Now it's 2019 and Doom 3 dropped on the PS4, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. And I didn't love it. I just didn't. Just hear those tasty industrial sounds. Yeah, stuff of legends.
Time wasn't on my side in that regard because I played the 2016 reboot of Doom to absolute smithereens before I even played a minute of the much older Doom 3. But you know what? I played Doom 1 and 2 after that one as well, and they never really felt dated. Allow me to elaborate. Let's start out with something positive. Doom 3 is still kind of a pretty game. I mean, the effects are, of course, not as impressive as they once were. It's unreasonable to expect them to be, but it mostly holds up. It's still a very atmospheric experience with a more horror-based approach than previous Doom titles. The game managed to keep me on my toes a lot of the time, and some combat encounters are still kinda spooky. It's a different beast than the fast and frantic 2016 release, that's for sure. When it comes to gameplay, the game still controls kinda well, not great, not terrible. The Joy-Cons don't exactly help either. It might be a bit more precise with a PS4 or Xbox One controller, I really wouldn't know. I would say it's a bit stiff actually compared to Doom 2016, but again, that's sort of an unfair comparison. The weapons are cool, but some tend to be quite a bit more powerful than others. Looking at you, plasma rifle, so you tend to stick with the ones that just deal a lot more damage. Also, this game seriously lacks a super shotgun. How can you make a game that's so focused on close quarter combat and leave out the super shotgun? I know that it's in one of the expansions of Doom 3, but it was sorely missed in the main adventure. The regular shotgun is just like meh. So with that in mind, how does it stack up to the other games? Doom 2016 is a very action-packed and fast-paced game, but in a lot of ways its design principles are not all that different compared to Doom 1 and 2. Things that made sense in Doom 1 and 2 still sorta make sense in Doom 2016. That's not necessarily true for Doom 3. I knew this beforehand, but it still became kind of a problem. You're not necessarily circle strafing all that much in Doom 3. You're not really running around trying to dodge projectiles. You're more likely to sneak from corner to corner, facing different forms of danger behind every one of them. It can be exciting for sure, but it gets old after a while. It gets a lot more stale than the older Doom games, I would say. It's a feeling that's amplified by the fact that most levels, except for maybe the hell stages, which were actually my favorite levels in the game, are like carbon copies of each other. 10 levels in, I was still traversing through the same dimly lit, dark and dampy space station hallways, and that wasn't going to change anytime soon. It's a well-designed look, especially for the time, but it does get repetitive a couple of hours in. It does not help with the Doom principle of finding switches and items either, because it's so hard to differentiate between different sections and levels. Some levels were super impressive at first sight, but really started to wear on me after I passed through them 100 times just to find one specific item. And 2/3 in, I just started to use YouTube walkthroughs as a final resort. I was hooked enough to keep playing, so that says something, I guess. But I feel like it was more of a pain in the ass than it should have been. The last boss is also kinda unimpressive, but at this point I was just sorta glad that it was over and I could finally move on with my life. I just had to finish it, and I did. But the sense of accomplishment was a little bit bittersweet.
Also, this is the VFG edition of Doom 3, so there are a couple of expansions, and I'm kinda not looking forward to playing those either. I would probably still recommend this game to people, especially people who own a Nintendo Switch and love first-person shooters, because it's still a little bit light on first-person shooters. So, in conclusion, Doom 3, still kinda cool, a little bit dated, in my opinion. That's all for today, and I hope to see you on the next one.